Hey everyone, we're at the exhibit live, and I am with my new friend Ricardo. He stopped by the exhibit, and so Ricardo, if you could just explain a little bit about yourself for us.
Sure. My name is Ricardo Leon. I am from Dallas, Texas, and I work at Baldridge Architects in Austin, Texas. And yeah, I'm a big, supporter of this exhibition, and I think it's a very important one. And I'm really glad that you took the time to make it, to kind of bring awareness to
Thank you.
the topic.
I appreciate that. I'm so glad you stopped in. I was like, yes, someone who can really give me some good input and some advice on what this exhibition is showing to the public. And so Ricardo has been super helpful. And so I just wanted to talk through some things with you. And what would you say were some of the stations that you could really relate to, or what are some challenges just that you deal with on a day-to-day basis, or even other things that weren't here?
Right. Yeah. I really love the kind of simulation, especially of the ramp and the turning radius. I always have issues with the minimum codes, just because sometimes they don't exactly work for me. I'm in I use a much different wheelchair than
It's more of a scooter almost.
Yeah. Well, yeah,
It's
it's a scooter. So the radius is not quite the most helpful thing for me. And at the same time, there are hundreds and hundreds of other different kinds of wheelchairs. So sometimes it's nice to see that in person.
Yeah.
Just to make people realize is this enough, or is this even let's have a real discussion about what these minimum code requirements are.
Exactly. And I love it also that he is an architect, and so he deals with this on a day-to-day basis, just like me as an interior designer, but he has a first-hand experience actually dealing with some of these things in real life. So I think that's incredible, just being able to have a very unique experience and very unique perspective with that. So let's see, what are some things that kind of, I guess, stigmatisms or things that people think about, or how you had said something about how people consider them disabled, or they say these about you, but and then they're kind of iffy on saying that they're disabled, things like that. What would you have to say about that?
Yeah, it's kind of just more getting into the importance of language, and how understanding that we're brought up in our society and told that disability is this kind of bad thing, which is just not true. It's unfortunate that disabled people kind of, in addition to physical barriers, have to kind of constantly battle with these more societal, environmental factors that really shape the way that people look at people with disabilities. I'm disabled, and I say that proudly. It's a big part of my life, and it's something that shapes the way that I navigate the world. So it's not something that I would ever want anyone to feel uncomfortable with. I always try to, whenever I can, just explain. If people say, oh, I don't consider you disabled, I think you're differently abled, or I'm just just call me disabled.
Yeah, you're get to the point.
Yeah, just call it don't feel uncomfortable with the fact that I just navigate the world a little bit differently than you.
Yeah.
And I have needs that are different from yours, and where I take issue with, and where I think people just need to bring more awareness, especially with exhibitions like
Yeah.
this, is that sometimes people's needs are just not addressed.
We just, you had mentioned we need to normalize disability, right?
Right.
Because it is normal. It's
Yeah.
not something so foreign like some people treat it or act like it's foreign.
Absolutely, and it's also something that, 1 in 5 people are disabled. So this is a very large swatch
Huge
of
population.
people. It's a humongous population, and I always tell people, like, I'm probably the only person that you've ever worked with that is a wheelchair user, isn't that right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm always making people question, like, why do you think that is?
Yeah.
Like, it's not that there aren't, capable people that use wheelchairs that would love to have this job. It's just there's so many factors that are holding back people that are designed and can be changed, and unfortunately, we just live in this world that doesn't normalize disability.
Yeah.
It's always just like one obstacle after another, and all these hoops they have to jump through to get to, an independent life.
Yeah. No, that's so true. That's so true. So I'm trying to think, so when it comes to you designing spaces and working with others, collaborating, how do you approach design when it comes to meeting those codes as well as incorporating them? Because a lot of designers that I know, and I mean, in big projects, sometimes those codes or the ADA restrooms or those kind of things get pushed to the back burner, unfortunately, because it's not pretty or it's not what you want to include. Oh, we have to include a ramp here because we have stairs. It's like, okay, well, I guess we're gonna hide it over here. It's not integrated. What is your perspective on that? Like, I think we need to have more integrated, start from the beginning and have it included in the very beginning process,
Absolutely. I mean, this is always definitely a challenge, and with like ADA code, it's not looked at as a design tool, unfortunately. It's kind of looked at just this thing that you just gotta check off the box, and then you are done with it. Don't have to worry about that. It needs code. We're not even gonna question it, and it's approved by the RAS specialist, and we can move on. But unfortunately, architects need to. Well, I mean, unfortunately, that's just not how it's looked at today.
Yeah.
And architects need to include that experience as part of the design process.
Yep.
If you have this grand, stair that is like a humongous, design feature, maybe question, is everybody going to be able to experience this sequence of spaces
Equally.
with the same way,
Yeah.
in the same manner? And if the answer is no, then maybe you should rethink your design a little bit.
That's a very good point.
Or think of an equally as special alternative that maybe is, instead of prioritizing one, you just come up with many grand sequences. It's just a design challenge, but I mean that's what architects do. We are design thinkers, and we have to rise to the challenge of designing spaces that are not only beautiful, but they are functional, and they function for many people who have many different needs.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. So now I have one more little topic. For me, having this exhibit be open to the public, my goal is to have people come here, experience these stations, and then leave with some sort of just more awareness, obviously, but then also how we can change if you're a designer, how to implement this and actually having experienced it, rather than just seeing it 2D on the code book, or we put it on our plans, the 5-foot turning radius, saying, oh, I remember when I tried that, that was actually harder. Let's try and give a little bit more space. You know, things like that is kind of how I want people to leave here. And just also reading about the experiences and understanding the wide variety of disability that we have to design for, right? Not just one type of person or one type of disability. And so if you had one or two things that you want people to leave here with, what would you say is like the biggest thing? It could be similar to what I have, or if you have another kind of topic or thought that you want people to leave here with.
Yeah, I mean, I would just leave with like the open mind that, you know, this should be, well, I would like to eventually live in a world where these kinds of things are just, you know, normal, in the same way that we don't question, you know, having, you know, a certain height for a room, or having like certain clearances, or I would just hope that it's just something that people understand is, it shouldn't be looking as like an exception. These are things that, you know, just to make society better is just good for everyone.
Yeah.
And maybe, you know, who knows, like they might have to, or they might find themselves in a situation where they're now using these design features, and they'll be glad that they're there because they were thought of beforehand. So I just hope that people walk away with just that, you know, just that idea that, you know, this shouldn't be a special thing.
Yep, it should be just a normalized thing that eventually, once all buildings are this way or everything is just like this, it's not like you have to check it to get off a checklist, right? It's something that is already within.
Exactly.
Like your knowledge. I think that's awesome. Exactly. I would totally agree.
And
is there anything else you want to add?
No, I mean, like, I think this is a great exhibition. I really love seeing the voices from people with different experiences. You know, it's also important to understand that disability isn't just also like a physical thing.
Exactly.
There are many different forms of disability that are visible, non-visible, and so I would encourage people to kind of go out of their comfort zone and you know, look up disabled advocates, and activists, and you know, try to immerse yourself kind of a little bit more in the world of disability, because it's probably something that many people aren't very familiar with.
Exactly. I think that's awesome. That's great advice. Thank you so much, Ricardo.
Sure.
I really appreciate it.
No, thank you.
So thank you guys. And again, please, if you like this video, please like and subscribe, and we will have some more videos coming out soon. Thanks so much. Bye.